with discretion comes the abuse of discretion among personnel of the customs, employees and officials of the customs commission, and therefore, yes, full automation and AI, in fact, should be very helpful in addressing smuggling.
Well, I don't know. I am not sure whether there was a budget given to the Bureau of Customs last year for full automation. They were given a few years back during the time that we were investigating this. But again, I have not heard of any report that they have fully automated already. So again, perhaps this is one of the
Yes.
answers. No? So, all right. Now, would you know the profile of the Filipino farmer, the age profile of a Filipino farmer in 1995?
Oh. 1995. No, 1995. You don't have the data, but we can check it, Mr. President, distinguished minority leader, but perhaps the good senator might have the information as he was here in 1992.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm not sure about the number, but it would definitely be lower than 30 years old. No, I'm not sure now, but the reason I ask is that I wanted to know what is now the age profile of a farmer in 2024.
57, di ba? 53. Yeah. In 2024, Mr. President, I've been informed by our Assistant Secretary of the Department of Agriculture that the age is 53 in 2024.
Oh, in 2024,
53, yes, yes. So we stand corrected because 53 years old last year, but I'm told another set of data says it's 56, 57.
I asked because I'm wondering if I've heard this somewhere. I'm not sure if it's true. You have scholarships for agri and farming courses to encourage our students to take up farming. Is that right?
That is correct, Mr. President.
Yes, because parang umaayaw na yung mga kabataan.
Totoo po yun, Mr. President. In some areas, there are no takers despite the fact that there are scholarships. And they're trying their best to entice the next generation of Filipino agriculturists to enroll. Kahit na libre na ang tuition at may mga scholarships pa for books and allowances and accommodations or lodging, ay very few takers, Mr. President.
I join you in your concern to help the Filipino farmers. Now, the Department of Agriculture, you mentioned them earlier, and I understand you have members of the DA here with you?
Yes, Mr. President.
During that investigation in the 18th Congress, I vividly recall that we were taking up issue on smuggling, on vegetable smuggling, technical smuggling, and then there were cases filed. May I know if those cases were indeed filed by the DA? And what happened to these cases? Regarding smuggling,
Yes.
agriculture smuggling?
The Assistant Secretary was not in the department in 2021, in the 18th Congress, Mr. President, but we will get the information.
All right.
But I recall that, Mr. President.
Perhaps it would benefit your committee if you get these figures, so that when you conduct your own hearings for this one, it might be helpful. As I heard you saying that there are no cases filed
Yes.
presently.
Mr. President, there are 3 cases, except that there are no warrants of arrest that have been issued against the brokers, the importers. Wala pa, despite it being a non-bailable case of economic sabotage. That's the problem, Mr. President. Baka tumakas na yung mga yun. Dahil isang buwan na yun eh. Baka nagtago na dahil mabagal o makupad yung pagkilos ng Department of Justice, NBI, and other law enforcement agencies, the PNP included.
Isn't the Bureau of Customs involved also? They have a unit that helps in this.
And the Bureau of Customs, Mr.
Yeah.
President, that is correct.
Yeah. No, in these tons of confiscated products that you mentioned, saan napupunta to?
My
Ito
unders-
yung,
Yes, Mr. President, my understanding is under the new law, the confiscated smuggled items, if fit for human consumption, can actually be donated to the DSWD.
and do they do that? Have they done that to these products?
We will have to check the entire list of confiscated smuggled goods, Mr. President, but there is one report that I read that, yes, they were able to donate vegetables that were fit for consumption, Mr. President, to the DSWD.
All right. Just one last question, Mr. President. It has been bothering me for some time already because does the position of Undersecretary for Special Concerns still exist in the Department of Agriculture?
Yes, it does, Mr. President.
Does the other departments have that particular line
Special concerns.
or appointment?
According to our resource person, the DAR also has a assistant secretary.
And what does the USEC for Special Concerns in the Department of Agriculture do, Mr. President?
Yes, for DA. Okay. Yes, Mr. President, there are two assistant secretaries and one position of undersecretary for special concern and ODA. So he has two hats. He handles special concerns and he handles official development aid.
So in the DA, what is special concerns? What is their special concern? What is his or her special concern?
Quick response. For ODA. In the current setup, he handles official development aid and farm to market roads, Mr. President.
Nothing on importation, Mr. President.
Nothing on importation, Mr. President, but it looks like he's involved in infrastructure projects.
All right. I'm sorry for the questions, Mr. President. I should have asked those questions in the budget of the DA, but I could not help but take it up and call the attention of the committee to perhaps you can look into this matter.
Yes, we will,
Later
Mr.
on,
President.
later
We are actually thankful
Yeah.
that these questions are being raised now because on Wednesday, we will start our hearings on this privilege speech, as well as the issue of why food prices are high. And we will have weekly hearings, Mr. President, and the questions will guide us as we raise some of the concerns and issues affecting the sector, Mr. President.
Very good, Mr. President. Excellent. I'm glad you're going to do that. So again, I concur with the privilege speech of the gentleman. Congratulations. Thank you very much for.
Thank you, Mr.
accepting.
President. Thank you, Minority Leader. Coming from the Minority Leader, supporting our recommendations, malaking bagay po. And we hope we will be able to move swiftly in addressing the recommended action steps. Thank you, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, next to interpolate is Senator Rafi Tulfo and move that he be recognized.
Senator Rafi Tulfo, hereby recognized to interpolate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the gentleman from Pampanga yield to some clarificatory questions?
Most willingly, Mr. President, to the gentleman from Isabela.
Thank you, Mr. President. Napakaganda po yung inyong privilege, Mr. President. Nakakatuwa dahil napapanahon na talaga para ma-address yung napakahalagang issue sa food security.
Maraming salamat.
Thank you for that privilege speech. Mr. President,
Na-inspire lang ako nung kayo po ang nagbigay ng privilege speech nung nakaraang linggo tungkol naman sa rice tarification, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, kasi noong 2023, ako po yung nag-privilege speech dito tungkol sa problema sa irigasyon. In fact, I call the attention of some corrupt officials sa National Irrigation Administration. Would you agree, Mr. President, na meron talaga tayong seryosong problema sa NIA? At ano pong, Mr. President, ang pwede natin gawin para ma-address yung issue niyan? Because meron pa mga irigasyon na bilyon-bilyon ang ginastos para patayin yung irigasyon na yon, pero hindi natatapos. And yet, pinupunduhan pa rin ng ating gobyerno para sa maintenance ng irigasyon na hindi pa natatapos at nakatiwangwang lang. Ano po, Mr. President, ang magandang solusyon doon?
Yes, Mr. President, tama po yun. I've also been hearing, at least in the last several years after I left the chairmanship of the board of the NIA, na may mga concerns regarding corruption in the implementation of these projects. My understanding, I had a briefing with the administrator. We would like to get and with the help of Senator Tulfo, additional information regarding these projects because meron talagang mga matitigas ang ulo at medyo sabihin na nating very entrepreneurial na ginagawang negosyo itong pag-repair ng mga at rehab ng mga irrigation canals and the like. At malaking pondo dyan yung repair at rehab dahil sa halip na repair at rehab ang nangyayari ay marirepair, marirehab pero wala pa rin tubig na lumalabas doon sa mga kanal o sa irrigation system. Kaya talagang dapat mabusisi din ito.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sana, Mr. President, may mananagot talaga dito sa matagal na anomalya na kung saan yung ating mga farmers, malaking bagay para sa kanila yung magkaroon ng proper irrigation sa kanilang mga taniman, Mr. President.
Tama po yun. In fact, right now, of the, how many irrigable lands? Over 3 million hectares of irrigable land. About, NIA has covered only 1.2 million. Actually, 1.7 million ang irrigation systems nila. Pero 200,000 of the 1.7 million hindi na pwedeng ma-irrigate dahil na-convert na yung lupa. And another 500,000 yung kinakailangan nung repair. So in other words, ayan na naman. Kailangan i-repair. So titingnan natin, babantayan natin kung napupunta ba talaga sa tama. Dahil bakit mo ire-repair na patse-patse tapos wala namang tubig na lumalabas? Ibig sabihin, kung magre-repair ka, doon ka na sa aabot doon sa sakahan yung tubig. Dapat may prioritization and we will look into this too, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, nabanggit niyo, Mr. President, which I really do agree na repasuhin na itong rice tarification sapagkat dito po nagmumula yung paghirap ng ating mga magsasaka. Now, Mr. President, meron ho ba kayong figures as to magkano na po ang nabigay from the RCEF doon sa mga farmers in terms of mechanization? Kasi Mr. President, kasama dapat dyan yung mga dryer na kung saan binibilad po yung palay ng mga magsasaka. Pero pag pupunta po tayo sa mga probinsya na may mga bukirin, kapansin-pansin po na marami pa rin mga farmers ang nagbibilad ng kanilang mga palay sa kahabaan ng mga highway. So is there something that we can do about this, Mr. President, para ma-monitor kung talagang nagagamit ng maayos itong budget mula sa RCEF para sa mechanization ng mga farmers, kailangan ng mga farmers?
Yes, dalawa ang ating maisasagawa, Mr. President. Unang-una yung budget ng DA sa usapin ng RCEP. We will ask for a complete listing. 30 billion na raw ang available na pondo So saan napunta ito? Gusto ko rin malaman, Mr. President, dahil 3 taon na kung wala sa Senado, hindi natin natutukan yan. Ngayon narito tayo, aalamin natin. With your help, pagtulungan natin. So sa budget, deliberations, aalaman natin yan. Pangalawa, yung pagrebisa ng batas mismo dahil gusto nating i-amenda. Doon, they will be required to likewise submit a listing, a breakdown of the expenditures. Saan napunta yung 30 billion na ito? Sino ang nakinabang? At talaga bang merong pakinabang? Meron ba na katakatakang mga deliveries, ika nga? That we will also have to look into. And with your help, Mr. President, we have the committee hearing on the revision or amendments to the tarification measure, and of course, the budget deliberations.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, siguro panahon na rin para i-monitor ito pong pag-distribute ng mga similya and fertilizers sa mga farmers dahil nakakarating po sa akin yung mga sumbong na ilang mga farmers na wala sila sa listahan and yet meron silang farm at meron ng iba walang farm pero nasa listahan. And there are times na dahil ang nadidistribute o nagbibigay ng listahan o naglalagay sa listahan ay LGU tulad ng local, which is like mayor and sometimes chairman, doon nagkakaroon ng anomalya. Is there a way or a system that you would put in place para masiguro na yung talagang may mga farmlands lang, mga farmers ang maging recipient lang at hindi yung mga walang farm pero nakakatanggap ng similya at binibenta lang sa market?
Yes, tama yan. In fact, hindi lang po similya, pati farm hand tractors, mga traktora, mga pataba, fertilizer, may mga nababalita sa atin na matagal ang delivery o nga nabanggit nga nung nakaraang privilege speech po ng inyo pong privilege speech na huli dumadating. So dapat din busisiin ito. Base dun sa ating rekomendasyon, yung pagbabalik ng agriculture co-ops sa ilalim ng Department of Agriculture, importante yun dahil mapapalakas natin yung hanay ng mga magsasaka na siya naman ng dapat na beneficiaryo nitong mga seedlings na ito. So if we are able to strengthen the associations, farmers, organizations, that will be a one check. Sila mismo ang magsasabing hindi namin natatanggap dahil kami ay organisado na. So we'd like to get the support of Senator Raffy Tulfo in bringing back yung agriculture co-op sa ilalim ng DA. Pangalawa, of course, yung extension service. Dahil sa ngayon, hindi lahat ng LGU ay may kapasidad na ma-monitor itong mga farmers co-ops na ito. Kaya, at habang ang DA regional naman ay naroon sa regional level. So minsan, ang mga delivery of services hindi angkop doon sa mga pangangailangan sa baba. Nabanggit din natin ito noon na binigyan ng traktora, hand tractor, pero ang tractor na hand tractor na binigay sa upland ay para sa patag. So nagkakamali rin doon sa specifications dahil nga malayo masyado sa lupa, figuratively and literally, ang DA pagdating sa struktura niya dahil hanggang regional level lang siya. So to tighten that is we bring down extension services to the provincial level. Right now, by way of an EO, ang understanding ko merong Provincial Agriculture Fisheries Extension Service. Pero hindi yan batas. That is an EO. It is not an ironclad law. I think it's time for us, number one, to amend the provisions on extension service to allow the DA to have provincial level extension service even up to the municipal level, and we have to fund it.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Para matutukan na yung mga sinasabing mali yung punla o kaya kulang ang punla o napupunta sa mga hindi dapat mapunta, nakatutok talaga hanggang sa baba.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very sure na makakuha kay Mr. President ng support from your colleagues and marami rin matutuwang mga tao kapag amyendahan niyo po yung rice tarification law. At isa po doon sa provision na Mr. President na gusto ko sana maamyendahan ay yung nagsasaad na kung saan inbred seeds lamang ang pwedeng ibigay sa mga farmers base sa rice tarification. Kasi alam naman natin, Mr. President, yung inbred na seeds ay mahinang output kumpara sa hybrid. So, mas maganda siguro, Mr. President, majority of those seeds na ipamimigay galing sa rice tarification ay inbred.
Yes,
I mean, hybrid. Excuse me.
we will look into that, Mr. President. Dahil ako mismo nakita ko yung kaibahan ng inbred sa hybrid. Yung inbred na palay stocks, siguro 3 o 4 ang ang stocks niya, no? Ang hybrid 8 hanggang mahigit pa. Ibig sabihin mas malaki nga ang
High ang
magiging
output.
yield.
Yes.
Of course, may dagdag po na consideration yan dahil kailangan din pondohan, dagdag na pataba. At sa bawat, ito nga ang isang hamon sa bawat pestisido, may iba-iba. Sa bawat insekto pala, o peste, iba-iba ang pestisido. So may talagang pag walang suporta ng ating gobyerno sa pamamagitan ng pestisido, ponla, pataba, krudo, mahihirapan tayo sa food security. We really have to provide the necessary support for our, not just our rice farmers, basta ang farmers at fisher folk natin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dalawang question na lamang po, Mr. President. Almost every month, ako po, Mr. President, nakakatanggap ng sumbong mula sa mga residente na nakatira malapit sa mga poultry at piggery farms dahil mabahong amoy, maingay at panganib na rin sa kanilang kalusugan. So ang tanong ko po, Mr. President, hindi ba tayo dapat magkaroon ng malinaw na zoning policy at biosecurity standards pagdating po sa poultry at piggery?
Definitely, Mr. President. In fact, sa aming gulayan sa Alfonso, Cavite, malapit kami sa isang poultry farm. Pero hindi namin alam na may poultry farm doon dahil walang amoy. In other words, at least sa probinsya ng Cavite, yung local government stricto. No? I'm not sure in other areas, but at least sa area namin. At patakaran talaga ng LGU na hindi dapat nagkakaroon ng aberya o nagkakaroon ng ganong klaseng noxious fumes galing sa mga langaw pati galing sa mga poultry na apektado yung mga residents. It's really a challenge, Mr. President, dahil ang daing naman nung mga poultry growers ay gusto na nating matigil na ang importation. Kaya dapat para suportahan ang ating mga poultry farms. But at the same time, may reklamo. So I think the solution really is okay lang yung poultry farms as long as it's properly zoned, 'di ba? In areas that it is allowed by way of zoning. And 2, dapat ginagastusan para ma-ensure yung pinaka-latest technology para itong mga sabihin na natin nakakalason o masama ang amoy o yung dami ng mga langaw are managed properly by the poultry farm managers and operators.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last question po, may kinalaman sa subsidies for fishermen. Nung nakaraang buwan, Mr. President, nagkaroon tayo ng fuel price hike sa ating bansa. Actually, it was a couple of months ago at kinakailangan ng mga mangingisda na magkaroon ng subsidies para mapagpatuloy ang kanilang hanap buhay. Ang system, Mr. President, ay nakasalungat ang BIFAR at DBM sa direct cash release at voucher system. Mr. President, bakit ang fuel subsidies para sa mga mangingisda ay laging kulang, delayed, o dili kaya napupuno ng red tape? So ang gusto kasi ng mga fishermen ay dapat diretso na lang sa kanilang cash assistance versus ang nangyari kasi ngayon, Mr. President, yung cash assistance dumadaan sa LGU and then sa BIFAR, and then BIFAR and DBM as ang mismong nag-assign kung saan gasoline station sila pwedeng maningil ng voucher nila versus ang gusto ng mga fishermen ay dapat cash assistance direct to them para mas mapabilis yung kanilang pagkuha ng gasolina, magasolina ng kanilang mga pump, Mr. President.
I think dapat mas creative yung ating BIFAR. No, hindi pa pwedeng one size fits all. And so I share the concern that perhaps in certain jurisdictions, depende sa lugar, baka mas mainam nga na maging cash assistance rather than voucher. No? In other areas where it's workable, then a voucher system should be likewise allowed kung convenient ito para sa ating mga mangingisda. But all told, that support should be made available. Also because pag tumaas ang presyo ng crudo, tataas kaagad. If I'm not mistaken, up to 70% of the cost of production sa paghuhuli ng isda is because of fuel cost. Yung pagpapalaot. So dapat talaga para manatiling mababa ang presyo ng isda, lalo na't pag mataas ang presyo ng crudo, mayroong ganitong klaseng voucher system. Now the challenge is how to implement it or cash assistance properly. Dahil minsan makupad din ang ahensya ng pamahalaan. Meron lang nga ako narinig nga nung isang linggo, baka ibang programa ito, pero yun nga, 10 buwan nakuha nila yung cash assistance para sa kalamidad. 10 months after nung kalamidad. Pagka ganun, parang hindi na natutugunan yung dahilan nung assistance. But anyway, going back to the fuel subsidy, we support that. We will look into it also, and we will ask the BIFAR to explain why the cash assistance, direct cash assistance, is not doable. And what are yun na nga, ano ang mga hadlang para mangyari ito. Pati ang DBM. Naalala ko minsan yung DBM nung nasa 18 Congress pa ako. Naging makupad sa paglabas ng implementing rules nung Sagip-Saka Act. Hindi ko, gagawin natin ulit yun. Kung hindi sila makapagpaliwanag ng maayos, ide-defer natin yung budget nila. At hindi natin naaprubahan hanggang ilabas nila yung maayos at maliwanag na patakaran na makikinabang ang ating mga mangingisda. In fact, just to add, if I may add, tatanungin ko lahat ng ahensya ng pamahalaan. I'm sending them notice already publicly today that each agency that buys food, tatanong ko sa kanila, magkano ang budget ninyo na binili ninyo o bibilihin ninyo direkta sa mga magsasaka para sa feeding program ninyo, calamity relief ninyo, sa mga milk feeding program, meron pa sa jails, hospitals, etc. Para pag hindi sila makapagpaliwanag at wala silang plano, i-defer natin yung budget nila hanggang may plano sila.
Yun. Elmi, very last na, Mr. President, so going back to fuel subsidies sa mga fisher folks, is it possible, Mr. President, na pag-aralan natin na taasan yung fuel subsidies para sa kanila?
Yes, I'm more than willing, your committee is more than willing to look into this. After our interpellations, we will send communications to the BIFAR. And what is their current policy on fuel subsidies support for our fisher folk, and then we will let you know. Magkano ba dyan? Ano ba ang kailangan? Pwede ba dagdagan? And we will inform the good gentleman. But bubusisiin natin yan din sa budget ng BIFAR at ng DA.
That's all. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Sir.
Maraming salamat, Ginoong Senador Tulfo at Mr. President. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Senator Tulfo, Majority Leader.
Mr. President, Senator Lauren Legarda seeking the floor. I move that she be recognized.
Senator Lauren Legarda is next to interpolate.
Ano ba yun? 7% ng cost of fuel. Diba?
Hindi ako makita rito.
Okay.
Okay.
It should be 90.
Will the distinguished gentleman from Central Luzon and the Philippines, our resident agriculturist and farmer, yield to some friendly interpellation from a neighbor and a weekend farmer?
in Tagaytay. Yes, willingly to the former Senate President Pro Tem, former Majority Leader, former Chairperson of the Committee on Agriculture, and so forth and so on.
Yes, thank you very much. First, I appreciate your rising today amidst a food insecurity issue, which I believe is an issue of national security, because
Correct.
you clearly said that what happens to the food on our table, sino magpapakain sa ating lahat?
Tama yun.
Since we have an aging farmer population, they are the poorest of the poor, our farmers and our fisher folks. And that is the great irony of it all. Those who feed us are those who may not even have and do not have food on their tables or receive lower than minimum wage. So I join you with all my wisdom in 25 years in policy and in my personal experience from a little hyper local farm, micro, and being with farmers and fisher folks almost every week when I go home to my
Batangas.
province of Antique,
Ayun, Antique.
which I would like to invite you to so that you can directly talk and speak to our farmers and our fisher folks as well. And so I have a few questions to enlighten us on policy in the next couple of months, if not years, starting with a law that we passed here in 2019. And I believe that there are possible amendments to the rice tariffication law.
Yes.
May I know the direction where our good sponsor is going, considering that the rice tariffication law, it removed import quotas and imposed tariffs on rice. But there was a promise, and this was twofold: cheaper rice for consumers and tariff revenues that would be poured into farm modernization through the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, the RCEF. I'd like to ask, based on your knowledge and actual experience, is the distribution of the RCEF, has it been fair and helpful? Would you be in a position to want to change the way RCEF is being implemented? Because we know that farmers still complain, first, that their farm gate prices crash whenever imports flood the market, while retail prices in stores are still high. And there have been calls for the RTL to be amended. And given your advocacy for decades, what changes do you think the rice tariffication law should have? Do you see the need to give the NFA back limited intervention powers, or focus on restructuring the RCEF so farmers can truly benefit? How can these reforms strike a balance between, on one hand, helping farmers earn more while also keeping rice affordable for the ordinary family? So just two-pronged, the direction we're taking in terms of proposed amendments, if any, to the RTL, but second, how the RCEF has been accessed by farmers, how has it helped, and how can we improve a more equitable distribution and greater impact to our farmer communities? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the series of questions regarding the rice tariffication measure and possible amendments. Mr. President, that is precisely likewise the direction that we'd like to take in terms of an accounting of where the funds have gone in the last since 2019. I will admit, Mr. President, I was not in the Senate for the last 3 years, and so I lack the updated reports on the implementation of the rice tariffication measure. And so I will need the information regarding where the billions were spent, who benefited from it. But offhand, we feel that based on the farmers and farmers groups who have complained about the RCEF, many of them are concerned about who are really benefiting from the mechanization, from the distribution of dryers. I understand the budgetary support may not cover most of the areas, and that's why we have to go into an inventory of where the money went, number one. With respect to the issue of NFA, I feel, having been chairman of the board of NFA, that we may have to restore a number of the regulatory functions of the NFA. We are still exploring whether or not to give back the power of importation given certain circumstances and given certain situations for the NFA, or if that can be done by the NDA, the National Development Corporation, rather NDC, or the PTIC. So we're still reviewing that. But in terms of returning certain regulatory powers for the NFA, I feel when I was chairman of the NFA board, the NFA had the power to deputize the NBI, for example, and the PNP to monitor hoarding, to monitor smuggling of rice. I think that should be, at the minimum, returned to the NFA. The power to deputize law enforcement agencies so that we can check violations of the anti-economic sabotage law, anti-agri economic sabotage law. After all, they are in charge, of buffer stocking. Now, with respect to interventions such as, will we give them back the power to import? I'd like to review that. I have an open mind because during my time, we did put in place a transparent, accountable process of government-to-government importation, which actually led to a reduction of government purchases. Nakatipid tayo ng 7 billion in a period of four importations in a period of 1 year and a half. Basta may transparent process. We had a approved budget for contract, which was the first time in the history of NFA. Before we went into the government-to-government purchase or importations, we based the budget for the importation on the prevailing world market prices of rice. In other words, today the world prices of rice, I think, is about 380, no? About, yeah, 380, for example, $380 per metric ton. What we did then was we got the average of 3 rice price monitoring agencies, added $5 to $7 up or down, and that was our approved budget for contract. So if it was $380, the prevailing market prices today, we added about 5 to 7 pesos per metric ton, and that was the approved budget for contract. And so if it went higher than 387, then we will have a failed bidding. But anyway, we did that and we saved 7 billion. So we're amenable to looking at that, but of course the hearings, we'd like to know if they have the capacity now and if the DA has other proposals. With respect to also limiting the support to machinery, equipment, infrastructure, I think depending again on the situation, there has to be also a provision on outright cash assistance for our rice farmers drawn from. There is a provision actually, but I'd like to increase. The experts then, I remember the debates, they were saying that given the impact of the flooding of imported rice into our local markets, there will really be losses on the part of our rice farmers. And that loss should be compensated by cash
transfer.
Cash transfer. So this policy we'd like to review, and I'm more than willing and open to increase the cash transfers should losses become such that you really need to intervene with direct cash assistance for our rice farmers.
Thank you for those answers, Mr. President. Perhaps one of the reasons why the provision on the non-importation role of the NFA is contained in the RTL. In short, it somehow took away the role of the NFA to import rice in the RTL of 2019 was the frustration of the previous chair of the Agriculture Committee with the NFA at that time. Okay, not to pass judgment, but collusion, corruption,
Understandable.
hoarding, cartels, even with law enforcement agencies that you mentioned. I've been standing here, sitting there for over 25 years, Mr. President. These conversations have ensued, having been chairman also in my first term of the Agriculture Committee and the AgriCom. And what was discussed 20 years ago has happened 10 years ago, could be happening now. How are we going to deal with that? Bring it back? They're allowed to import? No, no import, new law. Back because it didn't work, import again. We've tried all models. How are we going to solve that problem of hoarding, of really getting the smugglers out of the system, of the cartels being broken, of the prices really being favorable to the consumers, but also wag naman lugi ang ating rice farmers. And so that the Department of Agriculture is no longer called the Department of Importation.
DA, Department of Angkat.
Department of Angkat.
Yes.
So, pardon me, Mr. President, Mr. Sponsor, for my, I don't want to seem negative, but I'm just speaking from more than 2.5 decades of experience here, and it just goes around. We will bring it back to NFA, and the same problems will ensue. Then we look back in the future and say, why did we change it? We did not give the RTL a chance. So may I just be guided? I know that you had just returned to the Senate, and you may answer me and say, let's take a look at it first.
Yes,
And I'm
yes.
willing to wait. Yes.
Yes, thank you for that question, Madam Senator, Mr. Chairman. But you're right. Para tayong sirang plaka. Paulit-ulit. But I'd like to think that with this Senate, with my experience both in the executive and the legislative, and of course the support of the executive department, we may finally craft legislation, number one, that will address itong naging decades-old problem. We actually were able to do it when we were chairman of the NFA Council. Sabi nga nung isang I think a commentary, what's this? The golden age or the renaissance of the NFA? Because sabi ko nga, and it's on record, we achieved the lowest food prices inflation in 20 years. Has come down to that level. It's still high. Inflation, nationwide inflation is 1.7. 1.7. So it's low, which proves that if you manage rice properly, inflation will, nationwide inflation can be managed.
Maybe updated, Mr. President. What is our importation to date per latest figures?
Do we have?
How many metric tons of imported rice?
Yes. We will get the data, Madam Chairperson. We have asked although of course the policy today is that there is a halt on importation for 2 months.
Yes.
Up to September, but I understand it's going to be extended to October. So
Because I wanted to compare the wastage of rice. I recall in a hearing way back, there were measurements on how much rice we wasted in terms of food waste. When we keep rice on our plates, on our bowls, rice we don't consume, and
This is overall.
so much wastage. And there was a computation on an average of wasted rice as compared to the amount of importation. And if you balance it, we
Yes.
could actually save much
A
and
lot.
not even import
Almost 2 million metric tons of rice actually are wasted.
wasted.
And last year, was it last year? 4 million metric tons were imported in 2023.
So we could cut down importation then. if that-
4.7 million in 2024.
And 2 million on
Uh,
the average of
Yes,
wasted
and
rice.
over. Yes, about 15% of our rice supply is wasted, up to 15%.
So that campaign then, a large part of our campaign, aside from increasing agriculture yield and improving the lot of our farmers, would be to campaign against this wastage. And without doing much, then we divide or half our importation of rice, or even just rely on domestic rice supply. But I'll proceed now to the
Yes, just
RCEP. Yes.
place it on record. The last year, our rice sufficiency was where is that? 72%, no? And this, oh yeah, 72% rice sufficiency, which means 28% was imported, more or less. But if it's 15% of wastage, meaning we lost about 15% of our local supply, then we would have only imported, so 72 plus 15, well, my math is, would be about 87% sufficiency, no? And then the rest will just be imported. Instead of importing 28%, then you'll,
And if you compute that to pesos and cents or US dollars, a lot of savings for government.
definitely,
But
definitely.
that can be studied. And in fact, I'll join you in really a campaign for zero waste.
And part of the waste, Madam Senator, Mr. President, is also because of poor post-harvest.
Post-harvest facilities.
Kaya sa
Dryer,
dryer niya yung highway.
kalsada.
Oo. Tapos pag nababasa, nabubulok
Yes.
dahil walang storage. So a
Yes.
big amount of the savings that we can generate will be in investing in proper warehousing, proper drying facilities, silos. Ang hirap kasi sa warehousing natin, for example, and when we were chairman of the NFA Council then, wala tayong silos. So, yung pinasok mo na bigas o palay, nasa ilalim. Tapos yung susunod, nasa ibabaw. Pagka dalawang storya na yung taas ng bigas o yung palay, paano mo na kukunin yung sa ilalim? In other words, maraming wastage talaga unless you have silos wherein the first thing you put in will have to be the first thing you will take out. And therefore, the shelf life for palay is about 9 months. The shelf life for rice is about 6 months. So the first thing you bought in, you should dispose before the 6 months is over and the like. No? So again, warehousing is important to reduce losses.
So investment in post-harvest facilities and a more efficient system, which you just mentioned, which we know already, and should just be effectively and efficiently implemented.
The information is that since January to June 2025, we have imported 2.38 million metric tons.
Half a year, 2 million. So you're correct, more or less 4.7 in a year. And if the wastage because of poor post-harvest facilities is 2 million, we could have actually
Exactly.
saved.
Cut
on
it in
that.
almost
Cut it in half, yes. I go to the RCEP, which is divided into what? Credit facilities, into credit or loan for farmers, mechanization, seeds, ano pa ho ang binibigay? How is the RCEP divided? And
Well,
in terms of
tama.
percentages. So how much RCEF have we generated since the enactment of the law, let's say the past 5 years, and how did we divide it into seed production, mechanization, loans? And what are the other
Seed-
kinds of assistance
Trainings.
and training?
yes.
Yes.
Well, I have a view here, Mr. President, that unless you get your farmers organized, as in capacitated, all these assistance can only go so far. Why do I say that? I met the farmers of San Simon, Pampanga. They're the San Nicolas Rice Farmers Co-op. They're an association. But their association is more of a paper organization. They don't have, they only trade palay. They don't have the capacity to mill. They don't have the capacity. Their financial literacy is limited, but they're an association. So you provide them with a loan. If they're not capacitated, mawawala lang yung loan. Your credit facilities, ang hirap nung paisa-isa. Mechanization, you give them a tractor, and yet who will maintain it because they are a paper association without extension services and without sustained support from the
And the
DA.
maintenance of the equipment.
Exactly. So the absorption capacity of our farmers associations is very poor. And therefore, you may have all this training, which is well and good, but unless we are able to, the data is 96% of Thai farmers are cooperativized. In our case, it's 26.
And the rest are?
They're not in co-ops. They're subsistence farmers, kanya-kanya. Sila yung pinupuntahan ng mga trader at sinasabing 5 piso lang ang bibili namin sa inyo. Dahil wala silang power, wala silang, they're not empowered, they're not organized. In Taiwan, for example, I was just there the other week. For every extension worker, they are assigned 18 farmers. That's how grassroots the presence of extension services in Taiwan.
I'm glad the good sponsor mentioned this because I recall in my first term, I had filed the bill on extension workers in agriculture. It was not enacted into law yet, if I'm not mistaken, unless I forget now.
I don't think so. I don't think.
Yes, we could revisit
Yes.
the possibility of supporting extension services. But even if we have not enacted into law, I am certain that the DA can do it through the ATI and
Yes.
have extension workers right now because our agriculture sector is in crisis.
But they will need funding.
Yes,
And because of the level of organization of these farmers co-ops, it's really a huge task that needs the support. We want to bring back, as I said, the Agriculture Co-ops Bureau. Because right now, nasa CDA yung mga agriculture farmers co-ops, dapat ibalik sa DA
there's
para.
always been that tug of war between the agriculture co-ops. Where do they belong?
Yes.
Is it under the DA or should it be under the CDA? But I will leave it at that. But one of my advocacies is really working closest to the people, and what better way to help train the farmers and know the peculiar and unique needs of every agriculture sector. Syempre, iba yung needs ng Cordillera, iba yung amin sa Panay, iba rin sa Samar, iba sa Mindanao. So
Yes.
agriculture extension workers are really needed. And perhaps at the proper time, your office could provide us with the figures of how much RCEF funds were generated since the enactment of the law.
Yes, we will do that.
And the distribution per sector, per province, per congressional district, and perhaps an impact study on like a performance audit on how the law and the RCEV funds in that area increase productivity, if so.
Yes,
So
yes.
I would be happy to receive that information if Your Honor does not have it now, and I don't expect you to have all that information now.
We will
Okay.
make sure that during our hearings and even in the budget hearings, that we will raise these concerns
Yes.
and get the necessary information.
Okay. Second, pardon me for this quite lengthy interpellation, but it's friendly interpellation for the education
We-
of
we-
everyone, including this representation.
We appreciate
Yes.
the lengthy questions.
Thank you. Now, on climate shocks, as you know, climate change has always been my advocacy, and how we're able to adapt, do climate adaptation with regards to agriculture. So on climate shocks and on crop insurance. So every year, we know that farmers lose their crops to floods, typhoons, droughts, and pests. As if we did not know it exists, the next year it happens again. So when this happens, they're forced into debt, uutang. Agriculture insurance is supposed to provide a safety net, but coverage is quite low. Payouts take forever. And many farmers see it as unreliable and not worth the trouble. And because you yourself mentioned about financial literacy or the lack of it, then it's not present. Insurance, what is that? How will they fill up the forms? How is it done? So there have been new approaches like index-based insurance, where the payouts are triggered automatically by rainfall or storm data, or digital insurance linked to mobile phones could solve this, but these have yet to be scaled up. And without credible crop insurance, farmers remain hesitant to invest in better seeds or technologies, knowing that one single typhoon could wipe them out. So my question is, how do we modernize crop insurance in the Philippines? Should we bring in, this was asked earlier, digital platforms, public-private partnerships, or adopt index-based models to make payouts faster and more reliable? So we would need credible, accessible insurance. And how do we go about this?
Yes, that's a very good question. In fact, I was just in Tuguegarao last Thursday, because the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation distributed checks for crop insurance to farmers in Tuguegarao and neighboring towns of Cagayan, province of Cagayan, because of the typhoon,
Yes.
the last three typhoons. No? So the checks range from 20,000 to 27,000, and the recipients were rice farmers who own 2 or 3 hectares. But when I spoke with the president of the PCIC, it turns out, again, they have limited funds. In fact, the last time they had increases in their funding was during the time of President Aquino. So we are now in the midterms of President Marcos. So I think it's high time that perhaps in this budget deliberations or the next, that we increase the farmers' coverage. They're also only covering about 2.3, I understand correctly, farmers sa PC.
ACPC?
No, the Philippine
Philippine Crop Insurance,
Corporation.
PTIC.
Iba pa yung ACPC.
Iba pa yung ACPC.
Credit naman yun. So
Mm.
how many? Okay.
Philippine Crop.
Okay, so based on the labor force survey, we have 8.8 farmers. Now, the Crop Insurance Corporation only covers about 2 million, a little over 2 million. So
Mm.
clearly, the bulk of farmers are not insured under the PCIC because of lack of funding. So we have to address the challenge of funding. Number 2, we are looking at other models of being able to service crop insurance payouts. How can we leverage? Again, in Thailand, crop insurance is basic. The cooperatives, because they're organized, they have federations of farmer co-ops. They can do bulk purchases of crop insurance sa private sector kasi malaki sila. Again, it goes back to if the farmers are organized, then it will be easier to deal with them as an organization, and they can leverage their size in terms of being able to get into private sector providing insurance for them. But it again boils down to building the capacity of your farmers and fisher folk. Senator Legarda mentioned that she's been here since 1998. The AFMA was 1997.
Yes.
And one of the 7 key interventions to address modernization of our agriculture and fisheries was organizing our farmers, capacitating them. And clearly, since 1997 up until today, with only 26% organized, we have a long way to go.
We can see that there have been violations of this very important law, which has been here for what, 28 years, and you mentioned that. And another one is the implementation or the mapping of the SAFDC, the Strategic Agricultural Fisheries Development Zones, as part of the AFMA. I'd like, since you mentioned, it was going to be my last question, since you mentioned it, I'd like to know, have the SAFDCs already been completely mapped around the Philippines, all production areas for agro processing and market activities? Because when I spoke the former chair of agriculture during the previous Congress, the answer was in the negative, unless the consultants in the gallery then did not give the full advice. I'd like to know, has the DA, after 28 years of the 1997 law, finally completed the SAFDCs, and of what use is it to have agro-processing areas, production areas? It's like agriculture mapping for the whole country.
Ruby? Yes, that is correct. The information relayed to us by our resource person from is that it has yet to be updated.
That is, so the answer I got from the previous chair based on the DA was, it seemed like the law was ignored.
Yeah.
It is shocking, Mr. President, that laws are debated for weeks, months, years, enacted, unfunded or underfunded, and important provisions are simply not completely implemented.
Hopefully by the Pearl anniversary, 30 years.
Mr. President, Mr. President,
But seriously, levity aside, it is
we not demand that when the Department of Agriculture presents their budget, they would have speedily completed a 27-year-old mandate, which is to map production areas for agriculture. That's probably the reason why we are failing miserably in putting food on our table. Because if you do not even know what your fishery sectors, where they are present, if we don't even know the strategic agriculture development zones, how will you protect it if you don't know it exists, if you have not even mapped it? So,
if you
what
don't,
laws in this country, mere recommendations or suggestions, but laws need not be followed? Is it, and that goes from 1997 to the present. So, Mr. President,
that's
I
correct.
will join you, you're the chair, in demanding that the AFMA law of 1997 is implemented and followed to the letter.
I share the frustration of the good senator from Antique and Batangas and Malabon. Indeed, the AFMA is 28 years old. In fact, I recall the 7. The access to the markets for farmer support, access to credit, farm to market roads, infrastructure, post-harvest facilities, organizing your farmers and fisher folk. These were key
Not followed.
components. All of them have pretty much been disregarded, ignored, or completed or remain incomplete. And that's precisely why I believe it's time to have Agricom too. We have an agriculture sector and fisheries sector that's in crisis.
Yes.
None of our very few of our new generation of Filipinos want to go into farming. It's about time we sound the alarm bells and get a no-nonsense evaluation of what we have done right and what we have done wrong in the agri sector.
We are just touching the surface. We're just talking about rice. We have not, and agriculture. We have not even talked about fisheries yet.
Exactly.
And in my previous terms, I recall, Mr. President, I had filed the bill for the creation of a Department of Fisheries. I'm not certain if I refiled that because I'm tired of filing and
We have
refiling.
filed it.
If you refiled it.
We have
check if I
refiled it.
refiled
Yes.
Yeah, we could probably study that as well. But I respect the current administration's policy of downsizing or right-sizing. So possibly the creation of a new department may not be in order or supported. But even then, with or without that, what is ilan tayo as an archipelago? Is it 30 million? What's our coastline? What is our
It's the fifth largest
Yes, but
in the entire planet.
What's a measurement of our coastline? Is it 30 million?
30.
No, we're 30 million
3,000.
hectares of the Philippine. We're 30 million, 36,000 kilometers in 30 million hectares, right? More or less.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Yes,
And
36.
tama yan. 20%
36,000.
lang ng ating teritoryo. 20% lang ng ating teritoryo ay lupa.
Yes.
80%, 4/5 actually, ay karagatan.
So this, ulitin ko na, this SAFDC is so important because fisheries is part of that. And that's 36,000 kilometers of coastline. Coast pa lang yan.
Yes.
Eh yung ating exclusive economic zone at yung ating inland waters. Ang mga lawa, ang mga ilog, at ating mangrove areas and our wetlands. But Mr. President, I'll go back to the issue of the SAFDCs. It's
Yes.
like having in the environment sector, it's like saying we never declared any protected area because we did not follow the law. But at least in the environment sector, together with the previous chair, Senator Cynthia Villar, we were able to pass more than 100 protected areas all over the country. In this case, the declaration or identification of production areas for food,
Yes.
whether agriculture or fisheries, is not completed. It really shocks me. And I don't know. It should...
We will bring this to the
Yes.
attention of the Department of Agriculture and
Yes.
we will ask them to explain during our budget debates and give us a timeline as to when they intend to complete this
Yes, Mr. President.
because they're updating it.
They tell us that it's a useless law and that's the reason why it's not being implemented. If they tell us, hindi po kailangan yan, mali po yung provision na yan, okay, so we accept that. Unless I cannot say, I would not accept incompetence or laziness or ignorance or lack of awareness as an answer.
Yes, in fact, you mentioned fisheries. The Philippines is actually the center of aquamarine biodiversity in the entire planet. Therefore, there is no debate. Our aquamarine resources are so rich. We have 3 tuna belts. Thailand does not have a tuna belt, but they're the #1 exporter of canned tuna. And so we don't know where they're getting their tuna.
I come from a province that has a tuna highway
Yes.
because I live in a coastal fishing village and we have tuna there. Invite you there, big tuna for breakfast, lunch, merienda, and dinner, tuna. We
Exactly.
just need processing, canning, bottling.
And that's why
all of
we
that.
refiled the Department of Fisheries because we believe, in fact, you mentioned downsizing,
Right sizing.
right sizing. We can actually explore the merger of the Department of Agriculture and Agrarian Reform.
Mhm.
down the, some.
And fisheries as
and
a
then-
standalone.
And then have fisheries as
The
a standalone.
to elevate the bureau
Yes.
into a department.
In fact,
That's quite
in
interesting.
fact, one of our recommendations after we left the cabinet as a food security secretary was that the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources can actually be placed under the office of the president pending the creation of the department, and give the director of the bureau a cabinet rank. This has been a concern of our fisheries bureau, that when they face international conferences on fisheries rights, negotiations, etc., bureau level lang yung director nila, no? Director level lang yung bureau nila, rather. So that could also be immediately an executive order transferring the BIFAR to the office of the president, giving the head of the BIFAR a rank of or have a rank of cabinet secretary as the head of the bureau, or overseer of the bureau, and then you focus now. They can focus now on the fishery sector. It's a missed opportunity.
Thank you for that. And so far, we're always in agreement with all my questions. As I told you, this is friendly interpellation, and I thank you for
Because
always.
when I was in the Senate, you were chairman of the Senate Committee on Agriculture at one point.
Yes,
Yes.
for 3 years, and in
Yes.
Recom as well. So I support you in the creation of the Agricom, just like the EdCom 2, there's a proposal to extend the life of the Educational Committee. So
Thank
I-
you. Thank you.
I would
Madam.
join you in a majority-minority resolution for the creation of the Agricom, because food insecurity is a national security issue.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Senator.
Thank you. We've always talked about the aging farmer crisis, that the agriculture sector, ilang taon ng farmers, 55, 57 years old. I think we both filed, again, similar bills on the Young Farmers and
Yes.
Fisher Folk Challenge Act. And I hope, whether this is enacted into law or not, I'd like to know, how do we make farming more attractive to our young people so that we don't have an aging farming population, fisher folks as well? How do we make it more lucrative so that they don't just always want to work in call centers or go abroad as overseas workers? There's nothing wrong with those careers, but so that we increase the number of people who feed our nation.
Yes, that's a good question, and I've been grappling with that myself for many years. Some people would say, "How do you make farming sexy so that the new generation of Filipinos will consider taking a career?" Ultimately, I think it's about income. Why will a farmer, the youth of today, choose the agriculture and farming when you're actually asking him or her to take a vow of poverty? So it's a challenge. How do we, and that's why the Sagip-Saka law, and the long title of the Sagip-Saka law is Farm Enterprise and Entrepreneurial Development Program. Because we believe to move away from subsistence farming and to move towards farm enterprise development is the way to go, which also includes strengthening the farmers' co-ops so that they can graduate from subsistence farming to farm enterprise management. A clear example of how you can increase incomes for our farmer sector is the Sagip-Saka law. In 2019, the Camarines Sur Multipurpose Cooperative sold 7 million pesos worth of agri-products. But by 2020, 13 LGUs bought from the Camarines Sur Multipurpose Cooperative rice and other agriculture products during the lockdowns. No public bidding, direct negotiated contract. And before the end of the third quarter, they already sold 62 million pesos worth of agri-products, a 9-fold increase in the revenue. And I would stress, therefore, if a farm enterprise, a co-op, is already selling tens of millions of pesos worth of agri-products annually, or sorry, monthly, then that will be a
Very lucrative.
incentive for our young Filipino farmers to go into farm enterprise management and development. So it's really income. You know, in other countries, Thailand, Vietnam, even China, they benchmark their interventions in the agri sector. One benchmark is increased incomes. You know, China is a communist country. They're not supposed to be concerned about increased incomes. I mean, theoretically. But they benchmark interventions in terms of how much income will be increased. Because precisely they see that unless farming gives you return in terms of incomes, why should they go farming? I remember speaking to the Minister of Agriculture of Vietnam, and they benchmarked a tripling of farmers' income per capita in a 20-year period, from $500 to $1,500. The same with China. When they made a presentation when I was there for a visit, they said in 1979, the farmer's income in China was 160 yuan a month. Today, it's about 6,700 yuan a month. So very clear that unless you benchmark incomes as an indicator of a successful intervention in agriculture, then you will not be able to entice people to go into farming.
Yeah. The national per capita is 11,000
That is
for farmers.
for farmers,
11,000,
from 7 to 11.
7 to 11.
7 to 11. And the amounts necessary according to PSA to be able to afford, basic necessities is 13,000 a month.
Even 13, I think, is quite low.
Well, yes, given
yeah,
the 64
it is,
pesos
yes.
a day.
Yes.
uh,
And the
need.
11,000 is even high compared to the monthly farmer's income in my province. So I really need the DA to be able to help me, and you as well, how to increase the farmer's income. Perhaps it would be around half of the 11,000 national per capita.
And I think
Yeah.
in the DA bureaucracy and the attached agencies of government in the agriculture sector should start benchmarking incomes for every intervention.
Thank you for that. May we also ask from a DA in your office, being the chairman of the Agriculture Committee, aside from what I asked for earlier, the regional benchmarking of agriculture workers' income. Let's say in
Yes.
the island of Panay, I'd like to compare our farmers receiving 5,000 or less compared, let's say, to Iloilo or Aklan.
Yes, we will
Yeah.
work on the figures and the data and
I would be
securing
happy to
them.
receive that. And my last question for now, because I will have questions for later,
Yes.
would be on urban farming, which we all advocate, because even in congested informal settler areas, we could solve the problem of hunger if we are able to use all available spaces for vertical farming, vertical gardens, which is already being done by some NGOs. So I believe with your assistance, with your support, we could institutionalize urban gardening and urban farming. There are still vacant government lots in Metro Manila or even in other cities in different regions. If there could be a bill to incentivize and provide limited use of this vacant land, and even equipment and training for vertical gardens in our informal settler areas, magtanim lang ng alugbati at saka ng talbos ng kamote at kangkong, malunggay, di ba? Ang dali kung iisipin, kasi ginagawa natin ako sa maliliit na paraan sa aking farm. At
Yes.
napapakain ko ang pamilya ko at mga personal staff, pati ang ibang mga office staff. So kung kaya kong pakainin by my lonesome in a small farm, at least 20 families na nagbuhay ng 20-30 families during the pandemic, I think this can be done in every household that has some little vacant space.
I agree, Madam Chairperson, Madam Senator, Mr. President. Actually, hunger is more acute in urban centers.
Yes.
Unlike in the rural setting, nandyan yung talbos ng kamote, nandyan lahat, no? Nandyan yung malunggay, nandyan yung kamoteng kahoy, etc. But this is not the case in urban centers. And in fact, there is this debate about hydroponics, for example. Well, my own bias is I'm an organic farmer since 2012. So hydroponics is not organic. But for example, but you can grow it in a controlled environment, free from typhoon, free from pests, etc. And therefore, my sense there is it should balance and complement. In times, for example, that the weather is not cooperative outside, and therefore yields are low in open farms, then to complement that and to stabilize prices, you do have hydroponics and urban gardening, where they are more protected because they have natural wind barriers, your buildings, your homes, and of course, if it's hydroponics, you can actually grow lettuce in a condo inside with LED lights, etc. So pagka bumagsak ang supply dahil sa bagyo, then you have hydroponic supply available to augment, and therefore you're able to stabilize prices. So I see it in that regard. And urban gardening is the same. Hindi self-sufficient in food ang mga urban centers as it is. But with urban gardening and urban support, for vertical farming, then you can reach a level of nutrition, accessibility of affordable food in urban centers. And so we support the effort at propagating even further. I understand the DA has several interventions, both rural and urban. Meron silang gulayan sa paaralan. Over 40,000, I think, are involved in this, both rural and urban. And in urban centers, meron din, ano? Yes. But yes, we're more than willing to look into this. What is the status? How can we even further promote it? And what budgetary support would be necessary?
We have a bill pending in your committee. We would be happy if you could give it some attention, and the other policies that we mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I thank the good sponsor for so willingly giving me information and clarifying the issues. Thank you very much.
I should thank the good senator. She was a more senior to me in the field of agriculture. I just followed her lead. Maraming salamat. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
President.
you, Senator Ligarda. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, last to interpolate or make a manifestation, Senator Robin Hood Padilla. I move that he be recognized.
Senator Robin Hood Padilla is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo, at sa ating pinunong mayorya. Kung mamarapatin po ng ating kaibigan ng konting katanungan po.
Ay, wala pong problema. We are more than willing to answer the questions in interpellation of Senator Padilla.
Maraming salamat po. Ang katunayan po ay ako po'y sumusuporta sa inyo pong napakagandang talumpati. Yung pong aking manifestasyon ay napakahaba po talaga, pero nakatingin na po sa akin si Senator Bam. Dahil siya po ang susunod, iiklian ko na lang po. Alam niyo po, kanina pong umaga, tayo po ay nakipagpulong sa isang senador ng Amerika, si Senator Scott ng Florida. At nakita ko rin po na nakipagpulong din po kayo sa US-ASEAN
Yes.
Business Conference. Nandun po kayo. Ito pong pangyayari kanina, nakausap po namin yung senador, medyo nahirapan din tayo ng konti dahil English ang usapan. Pero maliwanag po sa kanyang sinabi na may pag-asa na tayo ay magkaroon ng kaguluhan talaga. Ang sabi nga po niya sa English, every country is preparing for the chance of conflict.
Mhm.
So ang tanong ko po ngayon, napag-usapan niyo po ba doon sa conference na pinuntahan po ninyo, yung patungkol po sa food security kapag nagkaroon ng tayo ng hidwaan at tayo'y nadamay dahil sinabi din po ng ating mahal na Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr., sinabi din niya tayo daw po ay mag-prepare. Mag-prepare daw po tayo kung sakaling tayo daw po ay mabitbit diyan sa Taiwan conflict. So ang tanong ko po, una, napag-usapan po ba ang tungkol sa food security diyan po sa inyong dinaluhan na conference?
Yes. Magandang tanong yan. Although hindi direktang napag-usapan, may mga bagay na napag-usapan na may kinalaman sa posibleng pagpapalago pa ng ating agrikultura. Yung isang kumpanya ng US-based company ay nagki-clinical trials halimbawa sa African swine fever vaccine. Interesado silang i-introduce ito dahil nga ito ang daing ng ating mga magbababoy na kulang ang mga bakuna, availability ng bakuna. So yon ang isang bagay na napag-usapan. Paano pa palalakasin ang sektor ng livestock? Dahil alam nating mahal ang karneng baboy, nag-i-import tayo dahil we are still recovering from the African swine fever na tinamaan ng ating magbababoy. May meron din pinag-usapang indirekta sa usapin naman nitong ilang mga produkto na nais po nilang i-introduce sa ating merkado na may kinalaman din sa pestisido, sa pataba, at etc. So, ulit, paano palalakasin pa ang sektor ng agrikultura? Nabanggit ko sa kanila na 7 billion lang ang agri-exports ng Pilipinas. At malaking bagay ang investment sa infrastruktura, sa agrikultura, sa financing para mabigyan ng suporta ang sektor ng agrikultura na malaki ang posibilidad na lumaki pa kung mayroong ganitong suporta. Pero sa usapin ng paghahanda sa posibleng disruption ng conflict dito sa West Philippine Sea, hindi nating direktang pinag-usapan yan. Ngunit, ang pagkaintindi ko ay may 35 kumpanya na dumalo nung tayo ay humarap sa kanila kasama ang ating kasamahan sa Kongreso na si Congressman Miro Kimbo. Pero meron pang kasunod na komperensya. Although hindi na ako nakapagpulong doon tungkol naman sa defense, sa mga armamento, na mga kumpanyang nasa security na nag-participate a few days later. Hindi ko alam kung tapos na, pero naririto sila. Pero hindi namin napag-usapan ng direkta itong pagpaplano o kaya paghahanda.
Apo. Maraming salamat
Although
po.
magandang tanong po yun.
Apo.
At kung maaari ko nga sabihin, kaya nga nananawagan ako at sana masuportahan ng ating mabutihing senador mula sa Camarines Norte na suportahan ang ating pagkilala na may krisis sa pagkain, may krisis ang ating sektor ng agrikultura at kinakailangan nating kumilos sa isang agricom at ipasa ang mga batas para maagapan natin at maharap natin ng maayos itong krisis na ito.
Alam niyo po, Ginoong Pangulo, ako po ay masaya sapagkat yung atin pong bagong chairman sa agriculture ay exposed po siya dito sa mga pronouncement ng mga world leaders patungkol po sa kaguluhan. Sapagkat alam niyo po, kapag ka nagkaroon talaga ng conflict, geographically, medyo mahirap po yung sitwasyon natin dahil Alam niyo naman, pag may conflict, laging air and sea blockade ang nangyayari. So, ang gusto ko po lang masigurado sa pamumuno po ninyo ay makapaghanda ang ating gobyerno dahil sabi nga po nung kausap namin, every nation is already preparing. So sana po sa inyong pamumuno, makumbinsi din po natin ang agrikultura natin na mag-prepare na rin po tayo ng sarili nating pagkain para pag dumating po yan, kung dumating man, wag naman. Wag po tayong sa gutom matalo. Yun lamang po. Maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Maraming salamat Ginoong Senador Padilla. Sabi nga kanina ni Senator Loren Legarda, food security is national security. Hindi maaaring matugunan ang iba pang mga prioridad kung hindi ito bibigyan ng importansya. In fact, nung kami ay bumisita at nagkaroon ng exposure dito sa China tungkol nga sa agriculture, top sa agenda ng Communist Party ng China every 2 years pag sila ay nagpupulong ng National Congress nila, number 1 o number 2 sa agenda ay agriculture. At nung tinanong ko bakit, sabi niya, pagka hindi natutukan ang agrikultura, we will, at ang food, sabi niya, we will be many Chinas. Ibig sabihin, magkakawatak-watak sila. So talagang mahalaga ang food security at paghahanda. Maraming salamat at magandang hapon. Thank you, Senator Padilla. Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you for this opportunity. May we request that the privilege speech and the interpellation be referred to the Committee on Agriculture.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, but before we refer the said privilege speech, I'd just like to thank Senator Pangilinan also with my small contribution, Mr. President, being the principal author of the RA 12022 or the Anti-Agriculture Economic Sabotage, and also the previous to the Anti-Agricultural Smuggling Law. We're hoping that with the resident agriculturists back in the Senate, that we will be able to really implement properly these laws. Sana naman po ay may mahuli na talaga ring smuggler at hoarder, no? Para po may ayos din natin ang ating sector ng agriculture. Mr. President, I move that we refer the privilege speech of Senator Pangilinan in all the interpellations and manifestations there to the Committee on Agriculture, Food, and Agrarian Reform. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, the privileged speech of Senator Pangilinan is hereby referred to the Committee on Agriculture.
Mr. President, Senator Bamakini would like to deliver a privilege speech. I move that he be recognized.
Senator Bamakini is recognized. Deliver his privileged speech.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Magandang gabi sa ating lahat, sa mga kasama ho natin dito sa Senado, mga kababayan at kapwa ko Pilipino. Karangalan ko po na pag-usapan ang kasalukuyang kakulangan ng libreng internet connection sa pampublikong lugar, lalo na po sa ating mga paaralan. Noong 2017, pinasa po natin ang Free Internet Access in Public Places Act o Republic Act 10929. Sigurado po ako na lahat tayo ay sasang-ayon na napakahalaga ng internet connection ngayon po sa ating mga buhay. Isa na siyang pangailangan sa ating pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay. Hindi lang po ito para makausap ang ating pamilya at kaibigan, ginagamit din po para makahanap ng trabaho, magsimula o magpalago ng negosyo at pakikipagtransaksyon sa gobyerno. At ngayong panahon ng tag-ulan, bagyo at baha, kailangan na kailangan ng internet connection para makakuha ng pinakabagong balita at update upang maging ligtas sa panahon ng sakuna. Alam po natin na sa panahon ngayon, napakalaki ng gastusin ng pamilyang Pilipino. Kasama po sa pinagkakasyang budget ng pamilyang Pilipino ang presyo ng koneksyon sa internet. Maging wired or wireless broadband o mobile data man yan, naglalaan po tayo ng pera para makakonekta sa internet. Ayon po sa National Information and Communications Technology Household Survey, noong 2024, ang pangkaraniwang gastos ng isang pamilyang Pilipino ay 1,069 pesos and 10 centavos bawat buwan sa koneksyon sa internet. Nakita din po sa survey na ito ng pinakakaraniwang hadlang sa karamihang pamilyang walang koneksyon sa internet ay ang mataas na presyo. Sa ASEAN po, pangatlo sa huli ang Pilipinas sa internet affordability ayon sa Mobile Connectivity Index ng GSMA. Ibig sabihin po nito, bukod pa sa may issue na tayo sa bilis at lawak ng nasasagap, napakamahal pa po ng internet sa Pilipinas. Sa kasalukuyan, around 20 million Filipinos still cannot afford regular internet access. At marami po sa ating kababayan ay nakakakonect sa internet gamit ang piso Wi-Fi. Pero tulad po ng iba't ibang mga tingi-tingin bibilihin, mas malaki ang gastos po sa dulo. Ang masakit pa po dito, kadalasan mahina ang internet connection dahil marami po ang gumagamit at posible din na hindi din reliable ang network sa iba't ibang mga lugar. Nakasanayan na po natin ang kakulangan, kaya madiskarte po ang Pilipino. Kaya uso ang tingi-tingi. Pero sa totoo lang mga kasama, 2025 na po at mag-iisang dekada na mula pinasa ang RA 10929 or Free Internet Access in Public Places Act. Mahalaga din po ang internet connection para sa mga Pilipino